I stood in our bedroom doorway at 2 in the morning, phone trembling in my hand, staring at my husband's sleeping face. I'd just discovered £74,000 sent to someone called Babygirl87. My voice came out as a whisper. Marcus, wake up. He stirred, confused, squinting at me in the darkness. Claire? What's wrong? What time is it? I turned my phone screen toward him, the PayPal transactions glowing in the darkness like evidence at a crime scene. Who is Babygirl87? The color drained from his face even in the dim light. I watched it happen in real time, the confusion morphing into recognition, then panic, then something that looked almost like resolve. He sat up slowly, running his hand through his hair, and I could see him calculating his next move. Claire, I can explain. £74,000, Marcus. My voice was steady now, cold. 3 years of payments. $2,000 every single month. Our IVF money. Our future.
Who is she?
He looked me dead in the eyes, and what came out of his mouth made my knees buckle. You need to calm down. You're being paranoid again. The miscarriages? Claire, they've done something to you. You're not thinking straight. You're seeing things that aren't there. I stood there, frozen, phone still extended between us, as my husband of 9 years looked at me with something close to pity and told me I was losing my mind, that I was broken, that what I was holding in my hand, what I could clearly see with my own eyes, wasn't real. My hand dropped to my side. For one terrible, horrible second, I actually questioned myself. Maybe I had read it wrong. Maybe the stress had finally cracked something inside me. Then I looked at his face again, at the relief creeping into his expression because he thought it had worked. He thought he'd convinced me I was crazy. That's when the ice in my chest turned to steel. Get up, I said quietly. Get up and come downstairs.
Right now.
Something in my tone made him obey. We walked downstairs in silence, and I led him to the kitchen table where I'd already laid everything out. Bank statements. 3 years worth. Every transaction to Babygirl87 highlighted in yellow. His face went from white to gray. How long have you known? He whispered. 6 days. Long enough to trace every transaction. Long enough to find out exactly who Melissa Hartley is. Long enough to empty every single account we had and move it somewhere you'll never find it. He looked up at me, genuine fear in his eyes for the first time in 9 years. What did you just say? I leaned forward, my voice dropping to barely a whisper. I said I emptied everything, Marcus. Every account. Every penny we had left. And when I tell you who Babygirl87 really is and what I've done with that information, you're going to wish you'd just told me the truth 3 years ago. That's when his legs gave out, and he collapsed into the chair. She's my daughter, he choked out. Melissa is my daughter. And just like that, my entire world shattered and reformed into something I didn't recognize. Let me take you back 3 weeks so you understand how perfect everything looked before it all went to hell. My name's Claire, I'm 34, and up until a random Tuesday in March, I genuinely believed my marriage was solid. Not perfect, no marriages, but solid. The comfortable kind where you know each other's rhythms, finish each other's sentences, know how the other takes their tea without asking. Marcus and I had been together 9 years, married for 6. We'd met at a friend's barbecue in 2016, bonded over our shared love of terrible reality TV and Indian takeaway, and just sort of clicked. He was steady, reliable, a bit boring if I'm honest, but after dating chaos in my 20s, I'd learned to appreciate a man who showed up when he said he would. We lived in a 3-bedroom semi-detached in Bristol. Nothing fancy, but it felt like home. I worked in digital marketing for a tech startup. He was a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm called Henderson & Associates. We weren't loaded, but we were comfortable.
We had date nights.
We had inside jokes. We had plans. The main plan was a baby. We'd been trying for 4 years. I'd had 2 miscarriages, one at 8 weeks, one at 12, and each one had absolutely gutted me. The second one especially. I'd seen the heartbeat at 10 weeks, started telling people, started buying tiny clothes. Then at the 12-week scan, there was just silence.
No heartbeat. No explanation.
Just these things happen, Mrs. Williams. After that, we decided on IVF. The NHS waiting list was 2 years minimum, so we'd made the decision to go private. Expensive, about 15 grand for a full cycle with medications and procedures, but it felt like our best shot. We'd been saving for 2 years, carefully budgeting every penny. Marcus handled all our finances. Every bill, every payment, every bit of tracking. He was brilliant at it, honestly. He'd sit at our kitchen table every month with his laptop and color-coded spreadsheets, going through everything methodically. He'd update me regularly, always optimistic, always saying we were nearly there with the IVF fund. I trusted him completely. That was my first and biggest mistake. Everything changed on a Tuesday evening in March. I'd been at work dealing with a nightmare client when a migraine hit me like a freight train. The kind that blurs your vision and turns your stomach, where you genuinely can't function and just need darkness and silence immediately. I left work early, drove home carefully, stumbled through our front door around 4 in the afternoon. Marcus wouldn't be home until 6. I just wanted to lie down. But first, I needed to check if my salary had come through. It was the 28th, payday, and I was supposed to transfer my half of the mortgage to our joint account. Problem was, I'd left my phone on my desk at work in my rush to escape the fluorescent lighting. I used Marcus's laptop. He'd left it open on the kitchen table, which wasn't unusual. His email was up some work correspondence about a client audit. I wasn't snooping. I swear on everything I wasn't. I was literally just going to log into my banking app through Chrome. But there was another tab open. PayPal. I wouldn't have looked. I really wouldn't have. Except I caught sight of our joint account name in my peripheral vision. C&M Williams joint account. And there was a transaction from 3 days ago. £2,000 sent to Babygirl87. I stared at it. My first rational thought was fraud. Someone had hacked our PayPal. My second thought was maybe a business expense, some client with an odd username. My third thought, the one that made my stomach drop despite the migraine, was the one I didn't want to have. My hand moved almost on autopilot. I clicked the transaction history. The page loaded. March 25th, 2025, £2,000 to Babygirl87. February 25th, 2025, £2,000 to Babygirl87. January 25th, 2025, £2,000 to Babygirl87. I scrolled down,
and down, and down.
every single month. The 25th, £2,000, going back and back and back. I counted them with shaking hands. 37 transactions. £74,000.
Gone. Just gone.
I sat there at our kitchen table, in the house we'd bought together with such hope, staring at that glowing screen, and my migraine just vanished.
Gone.
Replaced by this crystalline, ice-cold clarity that spread through my body like someone had injected freezing water directly into my veins. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I was just calculating. £74,000 was our IVF money. It was years of my bonuses from hitting marketing targets. My overtime pay from those late nights perfecting campaigns. It was the carefully budgeted life I'd been living for 3 years, stopping buying new clothes, meal prepping on Sundays to save 15 quid a week, saying no to hendos and girls' weekends because we were saving for something important. It was every sacrifice I'd made while grieving 2 babies I'd lost. And Marcus had sent it all to someone called Babygirl87. I heard his keys in the front door. It was only 4:30.
He was home early.
My hands moved on autopilot. I closed the laptop. Closed it gently, carefully, like nothing had happened. I cleared every expression from my face. Stood up. Filled the kettle like it was any other ordinary day. When Marcus walked into the kitchen, I was making tea. "Hey, love," he said, coming over to kiss my cheek in that familiar way he had.
You're home early.
"Feeling all right?" "Migraine," I said, and my voice sounded completely normal. "It's better now, though. You're home early, too." "Yeah, finished the Henderson audit ahead of schedule. Thought I'd surprise you." He smiled that familiar smile I'd loved for 9 years, the one that crinkled his eyes. "Wanted to pick up some Thai food for dinner?" We could watch that new Netflix series everyone at work keeps banging on about. That sounds perfect, I said.
And I meant it.
Because I needed time. I needed to think clearly. I needed to figure out exactly who the hell Babygirl87 was before I burned Marcus's entire life to the ground. We ate pad thai that night. His usual order, chicken with extra peanuts. I laughed at his story about a junior accountant named Ben who'd ballsed up a client spreadsheet and nearly cost the firm a £20,000 contract. I curled up next to him on the sofa, his arm around my shoulders, and watched 3 episodes of some psychological thriller about a missing woman. I went to bed next to him, let him spoon me like he always did, whispered, "Love you too," when he said it first. And I didn't say a single word about what I'd found, because I'm not impulsive. I'm not stupid, and I sure as hell wasn't going to confront him until I knew exactly what I was dealing with and had a plan for what came next. The next morning, Wednesday, I called in sick to work. Told my boss I needed a few days for the migraine to fully clear. Marcus left at 8 for the office, same as always. Kissed me goodbye, told me to rest up. The second his car pulled out of our drive, I had his laptop open. I spent that entire day digging. And what I found made the PayPal transfers look like pocket change. Marcus hadn't just been sending money to Babygirl87. He'd been moving money everywhere like a magician doing a shell game. Except instead of hiding a ball, he was hiding our financial destruction. I downloaded 3 years of bank statements from every account we had. Joint checking, joint savings, his personal account, my personal account, every credit card statement I could find. I created a spreadsheet that would have made my marketing analytics director weep with professional pride. The PayPal was just the visible tip of a massive iceberg. Marcus had opened a credit card I'd never heard of. A Barclays card with a £15,000 limit. It was maxed out. Every single penny spent. The statements showed cash advances, balance transfers, interest charges piling up like a snowdrift. He'd taken out a personal loan for £20,000 from some dodgy-looking online lender I'd never heard of. The monthly payments, £487, were coming out of our joint account, but he'd cleverly labeled them as additional insurance premium in his tracking spreadsheet. I'd never questioned it because Marcus handled all that stuff. Our savings account, the one that was supposed to have 18 grand in it for IVF, the one Marcus had shown me statements for just 6 weeks ago, it had £412 in it. £412. But the absolute worst part, the discovery that made me physically sick, that made me run to the bathroom and vomit up my breakfast, was this. Marcus had remortgaged our house without telling me. I found the paperwork buried in his email archives. We'd bought our house 5 years ago with a mortgage of £180,000. That mortgage should have been down to about £158,000 by now with our payments. Instead, according to these documents, it was £190,000. He'd added £32,000 to our mortgage, gotten a cash payout, and I'd had absolutely no idea because he'd forged my signature on the documents. I sat there on our bathroom floor, back against the bathtub, laptop balanced on my knees, and I felt something fundamental break inside me. We weren't comfortable. We weren't nearly there with our IVF savings. We were drowning in debt, over £100,000 in debt, and I'd been living in complete, blissful ignorance while Marcus kept showing me fake statements and lying through his teeth every single day. By 4 in the afternoon, I'd pieced together a complete financial picture that was genuinely terrifying. Marcus had either spent or moved over £140,000 in 3 years. £140,000. And I had no idea where most of it had gone beyond the 74 grand to Babygirl87. But I still didn't know who she was. That's when I started getting properly clever. I'd done enough digital marketing campaigns to understand how to trace online breadcrumbs, how to connect digital identities, how to find people who didn't want to be found. PayPal doesn't give you much information about payment recipients, but it gives you something. In the transaction details, buried in the confirmation emails Marcus had received, I found an email address associated with the Babygirl87 account, melissa@hartley87@gmail.com. I googled the email. Nothing came up directly, so I started trying variations and related searches. Found a Facebook profile for Melissa Hartley. Profile picture showed a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with long dark hair and a bright, confident smile. Pretty in an effortless way. The profile was set to private, but I could see Bristol listed as her location and that she worked at Henderson and Associates. My husband's firm. My hands started shaking. I tried Instagram. Found an account with the handle at Babygirl87. Also private, but the profile photo was visible. Same woman, same smile. The bio just said, "Living my best life, Sparkles Bristol," with a coffee emoji. I screenshot her profile picture and ran it through reverse image search. Found her LinkedIn profile. Melissa Hartley, junior accountant at Henderson and Associates. Bristol, United Kingdom. Graduated from University of West England, 2022. She was 25 years old. She'd worked at Marcus's firm for 3 years, exactly as long as he'd been sending her money. My husband was sending £2,000 a month to a 25-year-old colleague. I sat there staring at her LinkedIn photo, her in a smart navy blazer, smiling professionally at what looked like some company event, probably the same events Marcus attended, and something fundamental inside me just switched off. The emotion, the hurt, the betrayal, even the rage. It all went cold and quiet and calculating. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to confront him in some dramatic, emotional scene where he could manipulate me or make excuses or talk his way around it. I was going to be strategic, methodical. I was going to use every skill I had. I had 6 days until Marcus's next payday, until the next £2,000 payment would automatically go through to Babygirl87's account. 6 days to plan something he would never see coming. That evening, Marcus came home at 6:15, normal as ever. Asked how I was feeling, whether the migraine had improved. I said much better, that I'd spent the day resting. I'd even made his favorite dinner, homemade lasagna from scratch, garlic bread, Caesar salad. He ate 2 massive helpings, told me I was amazing, said this was exactly what he needed after a stressful day dealing with the Henderson audit follow-up. He kissed my forehead, told me he didn't know what he'd do without me. I smiled. Cleared the plates. Suggested we watch that film he'd been wanting to see. While Marcus watched some action movie that night, I sat next to him on our sofa with my laptop balanced on my knees, pretending to respond to some work emails. What I was actually doing was opening a new bank account. I chose a completely digital bank called Monzo that Marcus had never heard of. No physical branches, no mail coming to the house, everything managed through an app on my phone. I set it up in just my name. Requested the debit card be delivered to my work address instead of home. And then I started moving money. Not all at once. That would trigger alerts, raise suspicions. But over the next 5 days, I systematically drained every account we had. Thursday, £5,000 from our joint account, labeled in our shared budget spreadsheet as Q1 marketing bonus because I genuinely received one that quarter. Friday, £3,000, labeled client expense reimbursement. Completely plausible since I often had to front expenses for work campaigns. Saturday, £2,000 from my personal savings, then another £4,000 from the joint savings, labeled car repair fund, because our Honda had been making a concerning noise and Marcus had mentioned we should set money aside. Sunday, £8,000 in smaller chunks throughout the day, while Marcus was at the gym, watching football, doing DIY in the garage. I labeled them variously as professional development course, work equipment, and dental emergency fund. Monday, £6,000. I was running out of plausible labels, but Marcus was so confident in his deception that he wasn't checking anything anyway. Tuesday, the final day. I transferred every remaining penny from our joint account except exactly enough to cover that month's mortgage payment and utilities. Then I completely emptied my personal savings. By Tuesday evening, I'd moved £42,000 into my ghost account. Everything we actually had left after Marcus's betrayal and massive debt. Every genuine penny we'd managed to save despite his systematic lying. Marcus noticed absolutely nothing. Why would he? He'd been successfully lying for 3 years. He had no reason to think I was even capable of deception. But that Tuesday night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to him in our bed, listening to him breathe peacefully like he didn't have a care in the world, and I felt something inside me finally snap. I'd been patient for 6 days. I'd been strategic. I'd been calculating. But I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't lie next to this man for one more second without confronting him. At exactly 2:17 a.m., I grabbed my phone off the nightstand, pulled up the screenshots of the PayPal transactions I'd taken that first day, and I reached over and shook Marcus awake. And that's when my carefully constructed life exploded into 1,000 pieces. When he tried to gaslight me, when he looked me in the eyes and told me I was paranoid, that the miscarriages had broken something in my mind, that I was seeing things that weren't there, that's when I knew with absolute certainty that my marriage had been dead for 3 years. I'd just been too trusting to see the corpse I'd been sleeping next to. I forced him downstairs, made him sit at the kitchen table, laid out every bank statement, every highlighted transaction, every piece of evidence I'd compiled. Watched him go from confident to confused to panicked to terrified as he realized I'd known for 6 days. That I'd been 10 steps ahead of him the entire time. "How long have you known?" he whispered, his face gray in the kitchen light. "Long enough," I said coldly. "Long enough to find out exactly who Melissa Hartley is. Long enough to trace every transaction and every lie. Long enough to empty every single account and move the money somewhere you'll never find it." He stood up so fast his chair fell backward and clattered on the floor. "You emptied the accounts? Claire, you can't. That's our money." "Was our money," I corrected. "Now it's my money. Evidence for the divorce proceedings. Want to try explaining to a judge how you sent £74,000 to a 25-year-old colleague while lying to your wife about IVF savings?" That's when he collapsed back into the chair, head in his hands. And when he finally looked up, there were tears streaming down his face. "She's my daughter," he said. "Melissa is my daughter." The words didn't make sense at first. They just sort of hung in the air, meaningless sounds. "What?" "Melissa Hartley is my biological daughter." His voice cracked. "From before I met you. A one-night thing when I was 22. I didn't even know her mother's last name. And I had no idea Melissa existed until 3 years ago." I felt the room tilt. "You have a daughter. I got a message on LinkedIn 3 years ago from a woman named Sandra Hartley. She said she needed to contact me about my daughter. I thought it was spam at first, some scam. But then she sent photos. Claire, Melissa looked exactly like my sister at that age. Exactly like her. There was no question. And you never told me." My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. "How could I?" He looked up at me desperately. "We were trying for a baby. You'd had the second miscarriage just 3 months before. You were devastated. We both were. And then I find out I already have a kid? A grown kid I never knew about? How was I supposed to tell you that? By opening your mouth and using words, Marcus. By trusting me. By being honest. Sandra said Melissa didn't want a relationship with me. She'd grown up without a father. She resented me for it, but she was struggling financially. Massive student debt. Working 2 jobs, barely making rent. Sandra asked if I could help. Just financially. Nothing more. He was crying openly now. "I thought telling you would destroy you. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I laughed, high and sharp. "You stole £74,000 from us. You maxed out secret credit cards. You took out loans. You remortgaged our house and forged my signature. You destroyed us financially while telling me we were almost there with IVF savings. And you think that's protection?" I didn't know what else to do. "The truth, Marcus. You could have told me the goddamn truth." The kitchen fell silent except for his crying. I stood there, arms wrapped around myself, and felt everything I'd thought I knew crumbling into dust. "Does she know about me?" I asked finally. He went quiet. "Does your daughter know you married Marcus?"
"No."
That single word hurt more than anything else. More than the money, more than the lies, more than any of it. His daughter didn't know I existed. I was a secret to her, the same way she was a secret to me. We were both just compartments in Marcus's carefully partitioned life, kept separate so he never had to deal with the messy complexity of being honest with either of us. I walked to the counter, picked up my phone, called my sister Emma. Claire? It's 2 in the morning, what's? Can I come stay with you? My voice cracked for the first time. I'm leaving Marcus. I need somewhere to go. Right now. Of course.
Of course, come now.
Are you safe? Do you need me to? I'm safe. I'm leaving now. I hung up, looked at Marcus one last time. My solicitor will contact you by the end of the week. Don't try to access any accounts. I've changed all the passwords and set up alerts on everything. If you try anything, I'll press criminal charges for the mortgage fraud. And Marcus? I paused in the doorway. I actually might have understood. If you'd just been honest 3 years ago, if you'd trusted me with the truth, we might have figured it out together. But you didn't. You chose lying over trusting me. Every single day, for 3 years. That's what I can't forgive. I walked out of her house, got in my car, drove through empty streets to Emma's place. And finally, sitting in her guest room as dawn broke, I let myself completely fall apart. But I wasn't broken. I was free. And Marcus? Marcus had nothing left but the debt, the lies, and a daughter who was about to find out the truth about what her father had really done. Sometimes the person you sleep next to for 9 years is a complete stranger. And sometimes you only realize it when you find a PayPal account called Babygirl87. Every story leaves a mark. If this one touched you, let the telling tree grow by your like and subscribe.